All right, guys, I'm going to get this Truth in Taxation public hearing and input meeting. I'll call that to order. Please note that Councillor Deach is not present, but he is with us on, no, he's not. He is, okay. I can't see it because of that. So Councillor Deach is also online to be able to hear public input and comment on this. First, I just want to let you guys know where we're very happy to have you guys come in tonight and discuss the budget, because we know that this is a tough one for the residents of International Falls, just as much as it was for our council to put it together. We're going to do our best this evening to explain why we made the tough decision that we did to go to a 13.9% levy increase. With that being said, it is not what we wanted to do as a council either, but the priorities that we have moving forward, we believe should be in line or are in line with some of the past conversations that we've had, our comprehensive plan, and everything moving forward. So first, I'm just going to just give a little bit of a background. I do have this, the packet is up here for you guys to be able to see. Also for those that are online to be able to see and follow along with. There are some key differences from this year's budget from last year's budget. Last year's budget was kind of unique with that we had a 1.7% levy increase last year, which didn't cover all the costs of last year's budget. We pulled 87,243 out of reserves to operate in this calendar year. As I understand, part of this year's budget is to put those monies back into the reserves as necessary, so that we meet our requirements of having a 50% balance in our reserves to operate. There's been a lot of talk in the community about the Kerry Park project and how it impacts this year's or next year's budget. Looking at the Parks and Recreation budget well, I'll get to it when I get into it. But when you look at our Parks and Recreation budget, there is a $35,000 increase in next year's budget. However, that $35,000 increase is for drainage work over at Riverview Park, and it also includes in that $35,000, $14,000 to do maintenance at the Kerry Park Arena and to pay for the Zamboni batteries. One of the things that happened in 2021, this year, we had found out that there were bad batteries in the Zamboni. It wouldn't make it through this season. We cost shared those batteries along with rec hockey, and we are financially obligated to pay for those next year. So that's how we're paying for those batteries and the routine maintenance over at Kerry Park. There's no dedicated funds, zero dedicated funds or funds going towards the Kerry Park project in 2021. There's been some miscommunication in our community that that part of this year's budget, or the 13.9% levy increase that we're looking at, goes towards that project. There is no funds in this budget for the Kerry Park Wellness Center. It is our continued plan to advocate and plan for state bonding monies for that project. The state bonding is a project-based, and it requires no payback for the city to the state for that project. However, we are in the process of doing homework to make sure that if we move the project forward, that we would be able to fund the building and the project moving forward. If the city can't afford to do planned maintenance, upkeep, and pay the utilities on the future project that we're looking at, we have no intention of moving forward. But I just want to make sure that everyone is well and clear that there is no monies in this budget to go to the Kerry Park project that the city is looking at doing. The largest draw this year to the taxpayers of International Falls is the 401 permanent improvement and the 403 reserve for capital outlay. These two funds specifically account for $388,000 of the $414,547 levy increase. Basically, 388,000 of the 414 is going to public works. International Falls is a very unique community. We have a city charter that restricts us to not being able to incur debt. For this reason, the city has been debt-free since 1909. All of the projects to be funded, all of our projects have to be funded before we can move forward with them. This brings unique challenges for our cities, for our city that others don't have to face. The average sewer, water, and streets projects are over $1 million. Historically, we've been able to do 1 or 2 projects every 2 or 3 years. That's what got us into the infrastructure problem that we've had, leading the city to bring in the city sales tax. The sales tax money has allowed us to fix years of kicking the can down the road. However, here we are. If we don't adequately fund the projects that we're doing now, we won't be able to fix that infrastructure in the next 20 years. 2 years ago, when I first became mayor, what we were able to set aside for public works was $42,000. If you look at Friday's newspaper, there's an article in there about the county, and I realize the city and the county are two totally different animals. However, we're in a very, very unique situation, which is the same. If you read in the fourth column, about $800,000 annually gets funds the maintenance and construction of 180 miles of county roads and 130 miles of unorganized township roads, and it is generated from the property tax levy. The state, to avoid adding to the tax burden of property owners, the funding for those roads has not increased for 40 years and has remained stagnant since 1980. The county has not raised their how much money they're setting aside to fix their infrastructure in 40 years. And I can tell you, since I've been on city council for 8 years, not only have we not funded the future of our infrastructure in International Falls, we have slowly but surely pulled money out of those funds to get us to where we're at today. In the 1950s, there was a article in the paper, and it said that they did a study that said that our sewers were shot in International Falls. We just replaced this summer, the first full sewer replacement in International Falls history. We have a lot of infrastructure that has went bad. This isn't because of anything that we've done. It isn't anything that our previous city councils have done. But the thing of it is we've always tried to keep our taxes as low as we possibly can. And by doing that, we haven't been able to adequately fund our infrastructure. A couple of years back, there was a community project that the city funded, which was for our comprehensive plan. The number one thing that we heard from residents is they wanted us to fix our infrastructure. With that being said, we went out for the 1% sales tax and we ended up getting it. Because of that, we've been able to fix a lot of our infrastructure in our community, a lot of city streets, city roads, sewer projects. We have a huge list of things that we plan on doing next year, which does not necessarily come into this. But we have a project in a couple of years, and I just want to pull it up really quick, and then I'll go through the whole thing. It's just one thing to put in perspective of how crazy our infrastructure gets. And I apologize, I should have had this ready. We have a The Public Works is going to need approximately $4 million to do in 2024 and 2025, the Riverview Boulevard Highway Lane West and Park Avenue split over the next 2 years. This will include some water main, all new sanitary storm, a full road construction. And with that being said, we need $700,000 to do that project, including what we're going to use from the city sales tax to do that project. All of all of the money that we're putting towards this year's budget is to go to infrastructure. Okay, now I was just going to start using that. So I'm going to just start going through some of the budget, and if they can help me with that. In your packet, there's 2 exhibits. There's Exhibit A from 2021, which is the budget that we're doing this year. And then there's 2022, which is the proposed budget for next year. If you look on the far right side of those columns, that is where our adopted levy, that is literally where our levy dollars are being spent. And as you can see from 2021 to 2022 in our general government, that's going up approximately $20,000, $20,000. But what that is basically is just healthcare and wages between our 100 employees that we have at the city. And that goes up a little bit every year. There could be some stuff in their budgets that have changed one way or another, but as a general rule, that's only $20,000 of the levy, which is literally less than 1%. If you come down to the library has cut their funding quite a bit this last year. They've been able to be a little bit more strict with their budget. And then you come down to the Park and Recreation Fund, which you can see is up about $35,000. That's just a guess, not a guesstimate. I have the actual numbers. It is up $34,646. And again, that's going to some of the maintenance over at the Kerry Park Arena, the Zamboni batteries, $8,000 for the Riverview drainage project. Then you come down to the big animal in the room. I mean, this is where all of the increase that we're discussing is. It's going to capital outlay and P&I. If you look, we're asking for an additional $265,000 for the permanent improvement projects for next year, and we're looking for 123 more in the capital outlay. Between those 2 projects is literally what our public works is going to be spending to maintain our streets, which we have not been able to do adequately for, well, as long as we continued cutting monies from public works. So you go from, so that's the meat and potatoes of what we're asking for as an increase. If you go to the next page, you'll see our 2022 budget partnership agencies. The City of International Falls historically has helped fund some community organizations for what they bring to the community. As you can see, we dropped most of them 10% this year. The first one being the Bacchus Community Center. We dropped them 15% or 10% of what they had gotten last year. What those funds go towards is arts and entertainment in the community. It is legitimately the only thing that the city can fund through Bacchus. Bacchus is an amazing organization that does a lot of really good things for the community. And with that being said, where we are able to partner with them and give city allocated dollars to them is for arts and entertainment. Next, you see the Forest Hill Cemetery Association. Again, we've historically given them $10,000 and they were dropped 10% to, 20% to $8,000. Friends Against Abuse stayed at what they were at. The Senior Center stayed at what they were at, $2,000, because we have a contract with them, a long-term contract, and coincidentally, the $2,000 that we give them comes back to the city for the repayment of their furnaces. The Bronco Nagurski Museum was dropped to $25,000 from $30,000. That goes, we don't give the money directly to the museum. We give those funds to the Bronco Nagurski Foundation, and they then divvy the money back to the museum. Rainy River Community College, this one is a little bit unique. We're going to be giving $20,000 for their nursing program. However, that doesn't come out of the levy. Those funds do come out of the EDA. So just like, it just comes from the EDA. So that is not a fund that would be out of the levy. KCC-TV, you can see that they're going to be getting $13,000 this year, $1,000 less than last year. That is essentially a pass-through. It is what is charged to residents from Midco for having a PEG channel. So the monies that the city gets in, we give to KCC-TV to provide those programmings. As you can see, there is no other funds that are on that page, so we'll move on from there. Next, you can see the property tax levy at the 13.91% that the city's asking. That's where I came up with the $414,547 that the city is requesting for additional taxes this year. And again, $388,000 of that would be going towards public works and road, streets, sewer, water. And on the bottom of that page, you can see that the City of International Falls did get a slight increase in LGA funds, which is local government aid. We got an additional $38,805. Which was less than 1% of our budget, or less than a 1% increase, I'm sorry. So if you go to the next page, which is sitting horizontal, you can see that from 2021 to 2022, we have an additional between LGA and from the tax levy that we're requesting is additional income for the city of $453,352, which that difference ends up being 6.1%. So we have 6.1% in new funds coming to the city this year than last year. If you look at the next sheet, which is the preliminary 2022 property tax levies, you can see that cities across the state of Minnesota is requesting 6.6% increase. And our tax levy is requested at 13.91. However, just to note that between the two funding sources that we get, we are only getting a new increase in funds for the city of 6.1% this year. I do note that the county, our county, is requesting a 5% increase in your taxes this year. And the average across the state is 3.7. And I don't know the school district's increase this year, but the average school district increase is 4.6 this year. From there, we go to just some pie charts of where the city's budgeted revenues are this year, and how we spent the money and budgeted revenues for next year, and legitimately the budget expenditures between the 2 years. I don't want to spend a ton of time on these pie charts because they're just pie charts. The numbers kind of explain themselves. It's again, I just want to let you guys know this has been a very, very tough choice for the city to do this, and to be honest, we're willing to take public comment. We'd love to have you guys come up and discuss it. There's more to taxes than property taxes just going up. I know that we have the county assessor on here. It's a weird situation on taxes. There's what your assessment is on your taxes, and then there's what we ask for in tax revenue. It's very easy for the tax assessor to say, I don't deal with taxes, I just assess your house. And it's super easy for us up here to say, we don't deal with your assessment, you have to talk to him, we just know what we need for taxes. The reality is the whole thing is a convoluted mess, which I can tell you, Mr. Peterson and I have conversations about taxes and tax assessments every morning, and with that being said, there's nothing I can tell you guys that's going to make this seem okay or right. But I can tell you that in International Falls this year, residents had a 10% increase in all of the land value for residents in International Falls. And that was not dictated by the city or the county tax assessor. That was dictated by the state of Minnesota, that he had to raise the values 10%. A couple of years back, he had to raise all of the values of houses that were over 75,000 10%, and all the houses that were under 75,000, he had to lower those 10%. There's formulas that the state uses that, to be completely honest with you, are beyond my comprehension. I can tell you that the way the taxes work is it's a pie system. So as your property value goes up, you have to pay a larger piece of the pie. Businesses did not, as a general rule, go up this year. So the value on most businesses, unless they had did some work and had some construction done this year, the values on most businesses in our community did not go up. With that being said, it puts a harder strain on residents as we're asking for more taxes and your values went up. Makes it difficult because we didn't raise taxes much last year because we were in a global pandemic.
Before you hit us, big time. Mine is doubled. Mine is doubled in the last 3 years.
Okay, and we'll get there. We'll get there. It's been a tough deal. So as we go through all this, the city is asking for 14% more in taxes than what we did last year. We're not asking for everyone's taxes to go up 14%. In fact, because of the net tax capacity, there's $1.1 million roughly of growth in the city of International Falls, but it happened to be mostly in our residents. So therefore, they get a disproportionate amount of the taxes. So what the point of a Truth-in-Taxation meeting is not to necessarily talk about your taxes going up or going down. The question is do you have a problem with how we're spending the taxes in this year's budget? So I would open the floor to residents to please come up and state your name and your address and have a discussion with us about the budget. If you think that we should not be setting monies aside for permanent improvement, if you have issues with the budget, we are more than willing to listen to those concerns. If there's an issue with the valuation of your house, those have to go through the county assessor. And as for the taxes that we're asking for, if we're going to have a meeting of the city council, a budget and finance meeting to finalize the budget at a later time. This is for public input on the budget that we put together. So I would open up the floor to any resident that would like to come up and address the city council on this year's budget. Unless, City Administrator, do you have anything to add?
I have nothing additional.
Okay.
Thank you.
So at this time, I would open up the floor to the city council members for any questions or comments that they may have on the budget.
Well, I'd like to say that I think you gave a pretty good view of what's going on. Our infrastructure has been deteriorating, and I worked for the city for 40 years, and I saw it. You know, you're going from cast iron pipes for sewer and water that the bolts are rotting out. And within this last summer, we had 18 water breaks during warm time all over the place. And so that's telling you your infrastructure is in not very good shape. What they do is when they do new projects, they put plastic in. There's no bolts, there's nothing to rust. Once they get the plastic in there, you're good to go for a long time. We've got miles of piping here in this town, and I know that for a fact. That's deteriorating. If we don't take care of it, we'll continue to this number of 18 water breaks in the summertime, not during frost time, not during winter time. That's not counting that stuff. We're talking in the middle of summer. The stuff's starting to deteriorate. It isn't just water and sewer lines. All your electrical lines for your street lighting, some of that stuff goes back in the 30s, just like deteriorating. Insulation starting to come off on it. Underground wires for street lighting. So there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be repaired. Now, we did a sales tax thing, and we're getting anywhere from $800,000 for that 1% sales tax. But you know what it takes to do one block in International Falls? Completely do one block of utilities, curb, sidewalk, road. You're looking at $1 million per block. So you get 1% sales tax. Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah, Bimbo, I know. So anyways, what I'm saying is we need to fix our stuff. We haven't been doing it. We have not been doing it. And I'm not one to sugarcoat it. I mean, I'm just telling you, it needs to be fixed.
Anybody else?
We could sit here and we could be a council that doesn't fix nothing and watch everything fall apart year after year after year. But there's a lot of good stuff going on right now. And we need to keep plugging forward and make things better in International Falls. You can't do it by ignoring it.
All right. Anybody else?
I'd like to listen.
Okay. So we'll open up the floor. We'll take public comment. Please, if you come forward, do your name, address, and
Dennis Wagner, 3581 Town Road 415 Rainier. Question, the 1% sales tax amounted to how much money?
Well, it can produce 800,000. We happen to get a little bit more this year than that, but not much more.
Is that to be spent in the city of Rainier?
Infrastructure for
International Falls, any in Rainier? You guys are aware you are taxing the citizens of Rainier also on that 1%. And you didn't know that, huh?
Well, I mean, your people that come into town when they buy a fishing rod.
No. We live outside the city limits.
Yeah.
And because it's taxed because of the
because it's taxed,
sales tax, because of the area code.
Yeah.
Citizens of Rainier are being taxed
And that's
at
through
that same 1% on mail orders, things like that. So
and that's through the Department of Revenue, and they're welcome to get those funds back. They have to save the receipts, and they can get those
that was correct. So some of that 1% is actually belongs to the city of Rainier residents. We'll have to try to figure out how much that is, but it's a nightmare.
It's not on Rainier. It's off the residents of Rainier. Anyone that is paying the tax that doesn't live in, it's on them to put it in. It is not an issue with Rainier.
I understand that, Harvey.
Okay.
I just understand that 1%, that there's a part of it that belongs to the citizens of Rainier. Also, you said you had a 6.1% increase, and now we got a 13.9 suggested levy. That's a 20%. What's the 6.1?
6.1 is the total between what our additional LGA is.
Yes.
And what our additional sales tax revenue is. Between the two, our total revenues is only going up a total of 6.1% between LGA and the tax levy.
So not on top of the
No.
14, the 16 on top of that, that's included.
No, it is a total of
So the levy is still at 13.
13.91.
All right. That's all. I just thought there might be 20% increase.
No.
Mayor Wagner, there is a way to get the money back through the Department of Revenue.
Yeah.
It's much like you can do through customs. You can get if you want the money back, you can get it back.
All right. I have no other questions.
Thank you.
How many average people are going to do that?
But that's not on us. That's the way that the system is set up through the Department of Revenue. It is what it is. The reality is not everyone should have a 56649 zip code. It's the way that the postal code sets up, and they end up doing the revenue based off of the postal codes. If you have a Rainier zip code and you get your mail at the Rainier post office, you're not getting charged for those fees. It's based off of the zip code.
Well, I was here, I think it was 3 years ago.
Can you come forward?
I had just fine right here.
It can't go on the record.
But anyway.
State your name and address for the record.
Larry LePage, 2330 4th Avenue East. Anyway, about 3 years ago, I went to the taxes made such a big jump. And they told me the auditors and stuff, they were going to go around the whole city and everybody was going to get that. Now, a couple of years later, we get another big hike. You know, and like I said, I know it costs a lot of money to do things, but it seems like within the last couple of years, a lot of people's taxes have doubled and tripled. You know, and that to me, I mean, don't get me wrong, we all understand it costs money to do things. But what I'm saying is, there's a lot of retired people in this community, a lot of old people in this community. And like you said, it hurts, you know, and like if you take a little piece at a time, it's not so bad. It's when you get slammed, bang, bang. That's what kills the average person.
And I appreciate that, Larry. We feel the same way on the city council. We would have loved to have seen a handful of 2% or 3% levy increases over the years. If I don't know if it's in, for as much as I've looked at this packet over the last couple of years, if you look at our property tax levy in 2011, there was a 0% levy. There was a 0% levy in 2013, 2014, and then you're right. We did have a pretty decent one in 2018 and 2019, a 9% property tax levy. And in those 2 years, they were still trying to play catch up from the years before. I understand that. I can also tell you that to the best of our knowledge, if we can, I can't speak for the future, but there's no good time to do a 14% levy increase. I just know that if we're able to get this now, and this is the money that we can set aside, we shouldn't have to do this again. If you look at the last time they've had a double-digit levy increase was in 2010. Coincidentally, that's when we had our LGA was completely cut by the state. So we lost all of our LGA funding that year. So they ended up having to do a huge increase back then. And that's many city councils ago. I get that. But you're right. There should have been 2% or 3% little levy increases over the years so we don't have to do this big one. But the city council, I think as a general rule, we don't want to raise taxes. So it gets easier and easier to pull a little bit of money out of our public works because that's where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. When we had to get new equipment or we have a big project coming up, where do we take the money, Mike? Public Works.
Public Works.
And so then, once you have it on your line item from 2019 to 2020, and last year we only gave them 600,000. Well, it shouldn't be too terribly bad to take another 100,000 from them then. Well, they should be sitting at 800,000 or 900,000 every year. But slowly but surely, you keep pulling away from that. And then future city councils, right now we have probably the youngest city council in forever. We have two gentlemen over here that have been on the council for 3 years. We have one gentleman that's been on for a year, and we have another gentleman that's been on for 3 years. They don't know the history of what I don't even know. Julie Melstrom right here was sitting on the council, and she knows that that's where you pull your money. Where do you pull your money when you need money? Public Works. But then slowly but surely, as the paperwork moves on, you start to see slowly but surely you keep pulling money. The county, I give them tons of credit. They kept $800,000 in that account. They didn't pull any. When we needed money, we pulled money out. So instead of staying stagnant for 40 years, we slowly but surely pulled money out of it, and that's what got us in the boat that we're in. I appreciate your comments, Larry. It's a tough deal. It is a really tough deal. I appreciate that. Thank you. Julie, please. I think that those previous councils could have gotten softer chairs.
Julie Maelstrom, 904 6th Street. I will be talking to you directly, Harley, and only you, since you do not return my phone calls.
Okay.
Okay? You're the mayor. You work for me, taxpayers. You return my calls.
Okay.
Okay? We got that straight. Because I am really upset with you right now.
Okay.
The other ones have returned my calls. So anyway, okay, let me just say one quick thing here. You said there will be no funds for the 11th Street project. Who's going to take care of whatever? It's us taxpayers. Who's going to pay the heat? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that over that project there? That's our taxpayers' money.
Fair enough. And can I answer that question really quick?
Okay, go ahead.
Who pays it now?
The taxpayers.
So if we were to get a building and it's we're looking at approximately a $15 million project for all of Kerry Park, not just the arena, not just the baseball fields, the roads, the streets. So we're looking at getting a new, more efficient building that we would probably be paying roughly the same thing. So we're either looking at getting a new facility with state bonding money that we would be able to pay on. And again, we have a group working on that to find out what those costs are. But it's either come up with $2.5 million to fix the arena we have out of the city budget and maintain a 25 or 30-year-old building, or get a new building that will be more efficient, and we would be able to fund the same way we have in the past.
I understand.
Okay, fair enough.
But you keep saying there will be no taxpayers' money going toward it. There is.
Okay,
is.
understood.
You know, and you know what? Hey, when I was a kid, what's wrong with kids being outside? Nothing wrong with them skating outside. There's not a thing. They don't need a roof over and the walls, whatever. Put them outside. We have other things that we need to take care of. Other things.
Okay.
Well, I know you sit there and you smile at me, Harley.
No, I'm,
I understand. I knew this is what was going to happen. I knew this. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Okay, another question I have is, what was the budget for the road project of 2021? What was the budget for it? What is the price? What's the price?
I don't have, which project?
The road.
All of the road projects?
Road projects.
Brad, by chance, do you have that with you? No, I don't have that information.
Okay, I want that information.
Okay.
And also what was spent. What was spent of that money that was put aside for it? How much was spent out of it?
So what did we budget? How much did we spend?
Okay.
Okay, I want that information and I want it mailed to me.
Okay.
And I want you to mail it. You work for me, you mail it.
Okay.
Okay, and what else I want from you, Harley, is I want you to get me an itemized statement, put down everything, every cent that you're going to be spending of the new tax that you're raising and killing us people here. We don't have millionaires that live here. None of us are millionaires. You're going to put people in the street. This is what's going to happen, whether you believe it or not. We're senior citizens. We have no money. You know, we don't only pay city taxes. We pay county, we pay school, and then our taxes for our houses besides. That's a lot of money. And where are we going to get it? But I want you to get me an itemized statement, and I want you to itemize every little cent that you spent on this project that you're putting in for the streets, the whatever you're going to use it for. The public works. I want you to itemize every cent that goes to whatever place, and I want that sent to me.
At the end of next year?
No.
Well, how can
You
I?
should have an idea what you're going to do, what streets you're going to do.
Oh, yeah, we have that. Yes, no problem.
Okay. And I want every cent shown where it's going to go from this taxes that you're raising.
Okay.
And put it in the paper for the rest of the community because they don't have a clue. They
Okay.
don't, Harley. It seems like everything is like a secret to the people. No, you work for us. And I want it itemized and I want it within a week or two and I want you to send it to me. And I want you to do it.
Now you're the one smiling.
Well, I'm just telling you,
Okay.
you're lucky I'm staying quite calm because I'm really
I
quite
understand.
agitated.
I understand.
You know. But I want on that paper also what was budgeted and what was spent for the roads.
Okay.
And it's really sad that you did the 9th Avenue from 17th to 11, and you had 3 dig-ups already on a brand new street for broken water mains. What the heck? Why didn't you put in those new mains when you did it? Why?
There is,
Somebody screwed up.
no, absolutely
no,
not.
no.
I will not take that.
No, I'm
Nobody-
not saying you screwed up.
No, nobody screwed up. I can
told
tell.
that somebody screwed up.
Nobody screwed up.
And what happened?
We had Widseth came in and they did the assessment on all of our water. Water is one of the few things that you have to guess at because you go by what the time is, but by the time of when those pipes have been put in, and it also goes by the soils and everything else that's around there. They had a really good belief that they would not have to fix those water mains, or that they wouldn't have to. That's why we did an overlay on those particular things. However, given the set of circumstances of what happened this year, and Mr. Holden had just pointed it out, when we redid that our water and we had to refill it, there was too much pressure and some of them did blow, but they were the oldest ones and we hadn't had any problems over there before. With bad sewers, you can put a camera in there and you can see that your sewers are bad. You can't put that in on a water line. You can only go by time and what the soils are around those. Nobody messed up. It was coincidental and it happened. And do we feel like crap about it? Yeah, we do.
You should. A brand new street is not a brand new street now.
We understand that.
How sad is that?
Very. We agree on that.
I would hope that you pay attention to the next one so there's no more digging up.
Fair enough.
Seriously, put in new water lines. As long as you dug up down there, I watched them do 6th Street. They dug to hell and back. You had to have ladders to get down. And look at 6th Street. It's crap. But we can thank Koneman for that. He wrecked 3 of our houses by doing that project. I had broken trust in my house from him shaking the ground or whatever.
Okay.
So, but I want that report within the next week or 2, and I want it in my mailbox.
Okay.
Or you'll see them.
Thank you, Julie. Hey, Ed.
Council, good to be back. Ed Bates, 108 Riverview Boulevard. So, before I came to my first council meeting, 5-6 meetings ago, roughly, I had sat down and watched on YouTube everything from the previous year. And it was really interesting, and that's kind of why I asked the questions that I did at that time. I think what you're all attempting to do is noble. I don't want to take that from you, right? And I think the citizens of International Falls agree that infrastructure needs to get done, right? And I agree with you, Mayor Droba, that there's no good time to do it, right? 14% property tax increase. Nobody wants to see that, not ever. However, I think you're failing the people of International Falls in the way that you're going about it. The country as a whole, not just International Falls, not just Coochin County or the state of Minnesota, is in crisis, right? We're in crisis. We're facing, massive inflation, right, on everything, right? And there's been some moves made in town that it wasn't up to you to stop, but they haven't been beneficial. One of them being minors taking over, right? That has cost the people of this town a great deal of money. My grocery budget has almost doubled as a result of it. Given that that's the fact, I think that you're asking too much. You're asking too much of these people, right? The people that you claim to represent. And I would like for you to reconsider. I get that you need to increase the budget. I get that, $265,000, right, for the permanent improvement fund. I totally understand. But you were at a $1.4 million permanent improvement budget. You want to go to 1.66. Maybe you find some common ground there. Maybe it's not 265,000. Maybe it's $100,000. I went through your budget. It took me a long time. You were nice enough to send it to me. I went through it in full. It took me a very long time. I think there's other cuts that could be made that I think you're discounting. International Falls, and I don't want to take anything away from Chief Kostyuk, right? I think the police officers in town do a great job. Are we over-policed? In my opinion, yes. Right? Could we save $60,000, $70,000 a year by dropping one police officer? I believe so. Right? We bought a dump truck with a plow, right? I'm sure that was $120,000. Right? Do we need to spend that money? Probably not. Could we have limped it along for another year or two with a $15,000 investment?
It didn't work. It completely was shot.
Then road cleanup takes a little bit longer.
Okay. No.
Right? These are
I
tough choices, and I agree with you that you had to make them.
Mhm.
Right? I'm just saying that I don't think that now is the right time to jump to 14%. I think that everybody here, if you ask them, right, would perfectly be in agreement with, here, we need a 3% increase or a 2.5% increase, right? And then let's reevaluate next year. But let's not wait until, you know, the end of the first full week of December to do it. Right? You cut these people's legs off by doing it that way, where you put them on a time frame. You knew, according to city administration, about the budget increase in July, right? When you met with the department heads. I know that. Right?
Yes. And
So you could have back then in July or early August put this out.
no,
You
we
didn't
could
do
not.
that.
No, we could not.
You waited.
We
You
can't-
waited until the end of September to submit a budget, and then you included in it the Kerry Park project, right? Which was nonsense at that meeting, right? Yes, you did. You brought about a 13.9% property increase and said the Kerry Park project. And that was very clever. It was a very clever political move by you, right? By the entire council to bring it all up at once. Because you fooled these people into thinking that your property tax increase was because of the Kerry Park project rather than infrastructure, so that you could blindside them today to turn around and tell them that. And I know that that's true. And you can deny that all you want, and that's fine. I'm not interested in arguing that point with you. What I would like is for you to reconsider this 13.9% amount and be reasonable. Be reasonable that people are hurting. They've just come out of the worst, right, economic crisis in quite some time, right? That inflation is on the rise, right? Can't get stuff, right? Be reasonable with them. They will be reasonable with you. I've spoken to them. I know it. I'm not against it. I'm not against you. I don't want you to think that, right? I want you to work with the people here. They need it. They need to see a council that works for them, because the rest of their government isn't. Right? And they need to be able to trust people locally. And I went through this, right? And I found it, right? Just the numbers that you spoke of, exactly. You know, if you take those things away, we're actually at a, you know, $6,100 net increase. You know? So I think that if you just went to them and you said, look, you know, 2.5% this year, you know, a year or two down the road, we're going to do another 2.5%. And inside of a 5-year, 6-year span, you're going to get your 14. I think the people in town would agree with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to come forward? Anybody? Oh, please.
My name is Ian Hall. I live at 828 3rd Street. So I work at Small Town Tech. I work there 40 hours. I have an additional job cleaning. I work there 6 hours with my wife. She also works 6 hours. My wife works about 20 hours a week, taking care of a special needs individual. And we make something like less than $35,000 a year. I got my tax suggested tax
Proposed tax levy sheet.
Yep. So, you know, I'm a contract for deeding my house, which I'm very happy with my house. It's my first one, hopefully my only one. It is, the city thinks it's $107,000 is the estimated value, which is not what I paid for it, which is fine. That's all to say, I am not a wealthy man. And that's not by lack of trying. And I just want to say that I'm very happy with the city council. I've never felt better represented. And I think that the way that the city is going has been excellent. I've been very happy with the infrastructure that has already happened. I have talked to dozens of people that have moved here that are very happy with the better roads, and they're happy with the community, and that's part of the reason that they moved here, which contributed to the extra $1 million we have, if I understood you correctly, of people moving here and paying taxes here.
The extra $1.1 million that we have is from the assessments on housings going up in any new buildings that we had this last year, which there were a handful, but for the most part, it was assessments on properties, property values. But please continue.
Yeah, so I grew up in this community. I participated in community events. I ate at Bacchus every summer, every day. I volunteer in the community, and I've been very sad that I've seen in my short 25 years that our city has been slowly dying. When I went to college, I thought, well, I won't be moving back there because it's dying. And now I'm back, and I'm very happy here, and just want to give you guys a little bit of positivity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate that. Anybody else want to come forward? I'll open it up to those online. If there's anybody online that would like to come forward and address the council. All right, I will then close the public input portion of this.
What you're telling me, a couple of years ago when I went to bitch, they said there's nothing you can do about it until you come to these meetings. So what you're telling me at these meetings, there's nothing you can do about the goddamn thing either.
All right, the public input portion will be closed. We'll go to close the public hearing. City Administrator, can you help us with the next moves that the council will make on the budget and any changes that we may be making?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, the next step is for the City Council to meet as a Budget and Finance Committee, take the input, have discussion, and then come up with a final levy, which has to be completed and approved at the December 20th City Council meeting, at their regular meeting. So that would be the next couple of steps.
So I would lean towards Councilor Kraus, the Budget and Finance Chair. When would be a good time to meet to compile the?
What's the agenda of the cow looking like on the 13th? Do we know? I know we didn't hold one in November. So.
Yeah, there's a handful of items, but nothing major.
But,
do we want to just have it after the cow?
We could do it before the cow.
Well,
too,
I'd rather do it after the committee of the whole, and the only reason I like doing that is that gets the department heads and everybody that doesn't need to be at the budget and finance, that gets them out so they're not sitting there waiting just in case we take forever and a day.
Okay.
So
All
I'd
right.
rather just do it right after. That way, anybody that doesn't need to stay can.
So we'll just add it to the committee of the whole at the end,
At the tail end, if we could.
rather than the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that will be on the 13th. That should be, committee of the whole starts at 4:30. So that should be what, approximately 5 o'clock, 5:30, somewhere in there.
Yeah, there's a handful of items on that agenda, but nothing major.
Okay.
All right. So we have we'll add that to the committee of the whole, which would be a complete group of the city council. With that being said, we will have that conversation at that meeting next Monday, and the following Monday, which would be the last regular city council meeting of 2021, we would adopt any changes that come out of that changes or that budget that comes out of the Budget and Finance meeting. With that being said, I do appreciate all the public comment. I understand Mr. LePage and a lot of people are frustrated about this, and I totally get it. We are too. And I don't want anyone to think that these comments are falling on deaf ears. These are going to be real conversations that we have at that meeting. I have nothing else to add. Does anyone else have anything to add to this meeting? Hearing none, we will adjourn this meeting.